Nobody expected Mary to speak. That's what made it so devastating when she did. Mary Perell, the woman who spent nearly 2 decades standing quietly beside Rafael Nadal through 22 Grand Slam titles, 2 retirements, 2 sons, and more heartbreak than most people will ever witness up close, she almost never talks publicly. Not about tennis, not about the academy, not about the players who passed through those sun-drenched courts in Manacor. So when she opened up, even slightly, even carefully, about a phone call that happened at midnight after a young Filipino girl lost a tennis final in England, the entire tennis world stopped scrolling and started listening. Because if Mary is talking, something real happened. And what happened that night in Eastbourne changed Alex Ela forever. But to truly understand why, you need to go back much further than that. You need to go back to a little girl in Manila packing a suitcase for a flight she had never taken before, heading toward a dream that no one from her country had ever actually caught. Alex Ela was 12 years old when she first set foot at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca. 12. Think about that for a second. Most kids that age are navigating middle school hallways, not international boarding schools in Spain. She had left behind her language, her street, her friends, everything familiar, to chase a sport that had produced exactly 0 professional role models from the Philippines. There was no blueprint. No one she could call and ask how they had survived it. She was essentially inventing a path as she walked it, which is either the bravest thing imaginable or the loneliest, and honestly it was probably both. The academy staff noticed something different about her almost immediately. It wasn't just the forehand, which was already whispering something dangerous, or the backhand, which had a quiet fury to it. It was the way she competed, the stillness she carried under pressure. Coaches who had worked with some of the most talented juniors in the world started using a particular word when they described her. Composed. And that word would follow her for years, sometimes as a compliment, sometimes as a shield she hid behind, and eventually as a weapon she learned to wield with precision. She won the Australian Open Junior Doubles at 14. Then Roland Garros Junior Doubles. And then in 2022, at 17 years old, she walked onto the courts at Flushing Meadows and did something no Filipino had ever done in the history of that tournament. She won the US Open Junior Singles title. The Philippines held its collective breath and then exhaled into something that felt like pure joy. An entire nation had never seen one of its own stand there before, trophy in hand, in that particular arena. Rafael Nadal was watching. Not from the stands necessarily, but from a distance, the way a mentor watches someone they quietly believe in before the world has caught up to that belief yet. He was still competing at that point, still fighting injuries, still battling time the way only Nadal knows how to, with a kind of stubborn refusal that borders on spiritual. But he noticed her. His staff noticed her. And her coach Joan Bosch noticed most of all that this young woman was not simply talented, she was genuinely built for the moments that break other people. The problem is that junior success and professional tennis exist in entirely different universes. The junior circuit rewards raw talent and competitive fire. The professional tour rewards something harder to define, something closer to survival instinct combined with tactical maturity and the mental fortitude to lose badly in front of thousands of people and still show up the next morning. Between 2023 and 2024, Ela entered qualifying rounds at Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the US Open. And at each one, she fell in the very first round of qualifying. Not the main draw. Not the second round. The opening match of the qualifying bracket, before the real tournament had even technically begun. 3 times. 3 consecutive Grand Slam qualifying exits. Meanwhile, players she had beaten at the junior level were appearing in main draws, climbing rankings, collecting points. The gap between where she was and where she believed she could be started to feel less like a challenge and more like a question she was terrified to answer honestly. What if this is as far as it goes? That question is the most dangerous thing in sport. Not injury, not bad coaching, not unlucky draws. That question, whispered internally in the quiet of a hotel room after another early exit, that is what ends careers before they begin. And Ela was hearing it. The hard night was still coming though. The one that would bring Mary out of silence and Rafa out of sleep. But first, you need to understand who Mary Perell actually is, Because most people in tennis barely know her name, and that is entirely by design. She met Rafa at 17 through his sister in Manacor, the same small Mallorcan town where the academy now stands with his name on the entrance. She watched him win his first French Open. She watched him conquer Wimbledon in a match that still feels like cinema. She watched him cry at the Australian Open in ways that made the whole world cry with him. She stood beside him through injuries that would have retired lesser athletes years earlier, through comebacks that defied medical reasoning, through the slow and painful winding down of a career that had redefined what human competitive will actually looks like. And through all of it, she said almost nothing publicly. While other partners of elite athletes were building personal brands and granting magazine interviews and cultivating social media presences, Mary went the other direction entirely. She earned a business management degree, completed graduate studies in Barcelona, ran the charitable arm of the Rafael Nadal Foundation, and raised her first son largely out of the public eye. Her second son, Miguel, named for her late father who passed in 2023, was born in August 2025, and the world only found out days later. This is a woman who understands that silence is not absence. It is protection. It is power. It is the deliberate choice of someone who watched her husband carry the weight of being the best in the world for 20 years and understood personally and deeply what it costs a human being to do that without enough private space to simply breathe. So when Mary spoke about Alex Ela, even in the careful, measured way she did at a foundation event in Mallorca, the room went quiet in a way that rooms only go quiet when something true is being said. A Spanish journalist was there. He captured it. Within hours it had spread across the tennis internet like wildfire finding dry ground. She had been asked about Ela's 2025 season, about what the academy felt watching its most celebrated graduate rewrite Philippines sporting history. And Mary paused. Not the pause of someone calculating the safest diplomatic answer. The pause of someone deciding whether to be honest. Then she said it. Rafa cares about her in a way that goes beyond tennis. When she struggles, he feels it. After her worst loss, he could not sleep. He called her. I was there. I heard the conversation. Nobody had known about that call. Not Ela's team, not the Philippine press corps that had been tracking her every result for years, not the fans who knew her ranking to the decimal point. A midnight phone call from Rafael Nadal. And to understand why it broke something open in Ela the way it did, you have to understand what that worst loss actually was. By the time the 2025 Eastbourne Open final arrived, Ela had already done things that felt borrowed from a movie script. The Miami Open run earlier that year had been genuinely staggering. She entered as a wild card ranked 140th in the world and proceeded to dismantle players ranked significantly above her with a clarity and aggression that left analysts scrambling for comparison points. She beat Yelena Ostapenko. She beat Madison Keys, the reigning Australian Open champion, 6-4, 6-2. And then she defeated a former world number 1, 6-2, 7-5, breaking serve 8 times across 2 sets in a performance that had Tony Nadal, Rafa's uncle and the architect of his entire competitive philosophy, traveling specifically to Miami to observe her in person. She was no longer a prospect. She was a story. But stories carry weight. And by Eastbourne, she was carrying more than confidence. She was carrying a nation's expectations, the tennis world's curiosity, and the particular pressure that comes with being described everywhere, in every article and broadcast and social media caption, as the future of the sport. The final itself became something painful to watch in retrospect. She lost the first set tightly, then the second, then the match. And the thing is, objectively, reaching a WTA final on European grass as a player who began the year ranked 140th is an extraordinary achievement. Most players would have been celebrating. But Ela sat in that dressing room and felt something that had nothing to do with the ranking points she had just collected. She had been 2 sets away from her first WTA title. 2 sets away from proving Miami wasn't a miracle but a method. And it hadn't happened. Witnesses at the venue said her composure during the post-match handshake and the press conference afterward was remarkable. She smiled. She answered questions thoughtfully. She handled every microphone with the measured grace of someone twice her age. But people who truly knew her recognized the particular quietness that falls over a competitor who has retreated somewhere very deep inside themselves. She went back to the hotel. Messages arrived. Her coach sent tactical notes. The academy posted something supportive. The ranking update pushed her closer to the top 50. And none of it reached her. Then past midnight, her phone screen lit up. Spanish number. A name she had first encountered as a teenager chasing a figure through a Madrid airport hoping for a photograph. He hadn't sent a message. He hadn't left a voice note. He called. And according to Mary, who was right there beside him, Rafa had been awake for hours, rewatching the match, unable to settle, unable to move past it, until he finally just picked up the phone and dialed. Mary didn't reveal every word of that conversation. She's not that kind of person, and that call was never meant to be a story. But what she shared in fragments was enough to paint something vivid. She said that everyone around Ela was offering comfort. Everyone was telling her the runner-up result was remarkable, that she should feel proud, that this was just the beginning. And Rafa said something completely different. He didn't offer comfort. He offered recognition. He told her the pain she was sitting with wasn't a weakness to manage or minimize. It was evidence. Evidence that she wanted it badly enough to actually hurt when it slipped away. He told her that the night after his first French Open loss, he couldn't eat. He sat alone in a hotel room and stared at a wall for 3 hours. And that pain, he said, wasn't something that diminished him. It built the foundation for everything that came after. Mary, sitting beside him as he said all of this, started to cry. Not from sadness. From recognition. Because she had been there for that version of Rafa. The one who sat inside the pain instead of running from it. The one who turned devastation into architecture. And now here he was, in the middle of the night, giving that exact thing to someone else. Giving her himself. The story spread when Mary's words from the foundation event circulated. Fan accounts translated the quote into dozens of languages overnight. The hashtag trended across 3 countries simultaneously. Commentators debated mentorship dynamics and professional boundaries and what it all meant in the context of modern tennis. But through all the noise, one moment kept surfacing. Because when Ela was asked at a subsequent press conference about the night in Eastbourne, she paused with that familiar composed stillness and then said quietly, "Someone reminded me why I play. I don't think I'll ever forget that." She never said the name. She didn't need to. 3 months later at the US Open, under the lights at Flushing Meadows, Alex Ela did something no Filipino man or woman had ever done in the Open era. She won a Grand Slam main draw singles match. And it wasn't just that she won. It was how. Fearless from the first ball. Aggressive from the baseline. Taking time away from her opponent as if she had been playing at this level her entire life. And at a crucial moment in the match she hit a flat forehand down the line, the exact shot Rafa had worked on with her in a training session in Manacor that she had later described as unforgettable, and it landed perfectly. Not just inside the line. With intention. Like she wasn't just executing technique. She was honoring something. She finished 2025 ranked inside the top 50, captured the Guadalajara Open title, and posted a message that stopped people mid-scroll. "My dreams have come true. Everything this season is a love letter to my family, my team, everyone who believed in me, and of course to little Alex." Little Alex. The 12-year-old girl in Manila with a suitcase and a dream that had no map. By March 2026, she stood at world number 29, the highest-ranked Filipino player in the history of the WTA. And during the off-season, footage emerged of Rafa stepping back onto a clay court specifically to hit with her. 2 players on the same red surface. A retired legend and a rising force. A decade apart in experience, connected by the same discipline, the same obsession, the same understanding of what this path actually demands. He said it felt great to be back on a tennis court. She called hitting with him something most players only dream about. Neither of them mentioned Eastbourne. Neither of them mentioned the call. They didn't have to. After the foundation event, the Spanish journalist pressed Mary further. He asked whether she believed Ela truly understood the weight of what had been invested in her. Not the facilities or the coaching infrastructure, but the personal belief, the attention, the midnight call that nobody had to make. Mary sat with the question. Then she said, I think she is beginning to understand. When you are young and winning, you believe people trust you because of your results. It takes time to realize they believed before you produced any. Rafa believed in Alex before Miami, before the US Open, before any of it. Then she said the line that traveled further than anything else. That is the only belief that matters. And she was right. Because wins can be counted. Rankings can be tracked. Trophies can be displayed in a case somewhere and admired. But belief, real belief, the kind that arrives before the evidence, before the validation, before the world agrees, that is not a coaching philosophy or an academy methodology. That is the beginning of every great story, long before anyone realizes they are watching one unfold. Alex Ela is 20 years old. Her career has barely started. Somewhere in Manacor, overlooking the Mallorcan coast, a retired champion with 2 young sons watches her rise with the particular satisfaction of someone who never needed the world to see what he saw first. And Mary watches too, quietly, the way she always has, from the space beside greatness where the real story actually lives. She broke her silence once. And it was enough to remind the world that the greatest thing sport can give you is not a title or a ranking or a highlight that travels the internet for a news cycle. It is someone who picks up the phone in the darkest hour of your career, not because they have to, not because anyone would notice if they didn't, but because they remember exactly what that silence feels like from the inside. And they refuse to let you sit in it alone.